Hello Airsoft friends, and welcome to this video where we're going to be revisiting a topic we covered right at the end of last year about headshots in Airsoft and a Airsoft site which has kind of banned but not banned headshots. And yeah, the messaging has been quite muddy, to say the least. And the reason why I'm doing a follow-up now as opposed to earlier is I wanted to allow some time for, you know, kind of like everything to settle, for tensions to go back down, and for everyone just to like chill out and relax a little bit, and for, you know, all of us to have a little bit of reflection on, you know, what events happened, why these videos have been made, and why this is something which is, you know, almost, you know, at the forefront of conversation at the moment within the Airsoft community. As a bit of a recap, the main topic of conversation in the video was the fact that this Airsoft site had in their waiver as the #1 rule was that you would not do any deliberate headshots, which still even today is something which I find very, like, kind of confusing as a rule to have, because it's something which is it's so hard to try and even talk about. It's almost something which is so silly that it just makes no sense at all. So the reason why we're doing a follow-up video now is, first of all, like I said, there's been time between there for the dust to settle and for us to think about our positions. Also, since that point, the site owner did a Facebook Live video where they talked about a certain incident where there was like a player headshot and then there was confusion about what happened. And there was a few interesting points in there which I thought was worth following up about. So I got in touch with the site, I messaged them on Facebook, and unfortunately they declined to comment. And I found that a little bit kind of upsetting, because in their video where they did like a live stream talking about the event, they said they were upset that the person who created a video about this event that happened didn't get in touch with them. Now, I've taken that into account and I've approached them and asked them to comment on a couple of different bits, and yeah, nothing back at all. They don't want to get involved and they don't want to talk about it. So with that being the case, I'm just going to kind of like let you know my full thoughts and opinions on what's happened, and hopefully what we can expect moving forward from hopefully them and, you know, just everyone in general. So with that being said, I still believe that having the #1 rule on a waiver saying no deliberate headshots is just a bad idea, because you cannot tell if something is deliberate or not, and you have a waiver for people to agree to rules so that if something happens in those rules, that they're broken or whatever, or legally you're agreeing to something, so the second rule on the waiver is you are mentally and physically fit to play Airsoft, you're covered from an insurance perspective, you know? The thing that I find boggling is it's the #1 rule in their waiver. They say it has to be there for insurance purposes. However, in the live stream they did, they said that they don't actually, you know, punish anyone for doing headshots. They even encourage headshots in the context that if their head is the only thing that you can see, well, of course you're going to say that. And the site owner himself said if he's peeking a door and only his head is peeking out, he's expecting to get shot in the head. But you can't encourage headshots in that way if the #1 rule on your waiver is you cannot do any deliberate headshots. It has to be either one or the other. You can't just have a rule and then go, don't worry about it, it's all fine. It just doesn't make any sense. And if it has to be on there from an insurance perspective, and then you're actively telling people it's okay to shoot people in the head, and you're not reprimanding anyone for shooting people in the head, then doesn't that void your insurance? Like, I'm not an insurance lawyer, but surely those two things cannot coexist at the same time without there being any issue. This was one of the questions that I sent across to them, and they just didn't respond to that at all. So I still genuinely would like to know, and I'm putting my hands up now, and I'm just saying, I'm not creating this video to try and cause any kind of drama. I'm not creating this video just to try and get people to be like, oh yeah, that's right, oh, that site, oh, headshots, blah. I'm genuinely making this video because I want to create a dialogue where I can just find out and to try and, you know, gain more understanding about why they're doing those decisions and why, you know, that is that rule on the waiver and why it's displayed in that way. Because I'm so confused by this whole thing, because it genuinely doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, if you're watching this, and I'm going to send them the link after this as well so they can watch the video. If you're watching this, I just want to have a dialogue with you so I can understand the reasons why. Because the reasons that they've given in the live stream so far just don't really make sense and contradict each other. That point aside, the other thing which I'm super curious about is in the live stream, they kept saying that the player was only doing what he was told in the brief. Now, luckily for us, this player was somebody who had never been to Airsoft before, which is absolutely fantastic because in this context of things, we've got a player who has no experience about what is supposed to happen or how people are meant to play or react to certain things on the Airsoft field. So he was acting purely in a way which he was told to via the waiver and via the brief that they had at the start of the day. During the live stream, the owner of the site said multiple times that the player was only doing what he was told during the brief, and what he was told during the brief was covered in the waiver, which was no deliberate headshots. The owner of the site said the player was only doing what he was told in the brief, which was essentially going to a marshal and complaining about a player who had shot him in the head. Or maybe he wasn't complaining, maybe he was just telling a marshal and asking him if that was okay. You know, I don't know the exact context of that, it's kind of hard to see in the clip, but this is something which, to me, makes the whole event just feel like it's something which has been completely prevented by the site itself. What the site owner could have said, though, is that he is only doing what he was told in the brief, but perhaps we could update the brief to make it better or more accurate or more informative. So if there are players who haven't played Airsoft there before, they're not going to go and complain if they get shot in the head because it's actually okay for them to do so, even though the waiver says it's not okay for them to do so. But yeah, you just see how that's confusing? And this is the kind of situation where I'm not expecting somebody to be like, that person's wrong, that person's right. What I'm expecting this situation to kind of be is, and hopefully one to resolve, is that people can just look at what happened and go, you know what? That could be better, because if we improve that, then that's not going to happen anymore. And I think that's exactly where we need to, you know, try and move this forward. I don't expect that this is going to be something that we're going to talk about a lot more in future, or this specific happening, purely because the site hasn't wanted to, you know, talk to me or give me any extra information in the past. And I sadly doubt that they're going to want to do that anymore after this video. But again, I just want to reiterate, I just want to try and have a dialogue with you guys and work with you to try and understand the thought process and the reasons why, and potentially help you guys in, you know, making it clearer and easier for people to understand. The way I expect this whole thing can be resolved at this point in time would be to, first of all, change the wording of the waiver and make it so the deliberate headshot piece isn't the #1 thing on the list. Put it right to the bottom and change it to no deliberate headshots unless that is the only shot that you have. And if for your insurance purposes you cannot change it and the text has to be exactly like that, then I'd probably move it out of that list completely and just put it like in some, you know, small font text somewhere else on the document, so it's not just, you know, front and center, making it look like it's a huge issue, which it really isn't. And it's confirmed to be not a big issue because the site owner himself said in a video that they're not going to punish anyone for deliberate headshots, and if the head is the only thing that you can shoot, then you should shoot it. So, you know, they are encouraging headshots in that way. And the third thing I would do would be just to, you know, have a look at the brief and potentially see if there's any areas for improvement. So many times in that live stream, they said that the player was only doing what he was briefed to do. And if that's the case, and if this, you know, isn't the desired result from the briefing, then there's your answer. Just update the brief and make it a little bit easier to understand, or a bit more clearer for players who aren't experienced, what they're supposed to do in those situations, what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I think that will probably clear everything up and make everything easier and better for everybody else out there. Like I've said many times before, I'm not making this for any shock factor. I'm not trying to get people to go, blah, blah, blah. It's the reason why I'm not mentioning the name of the site owner, the site, anyone else involved. Like, I'm not interested in any of that stuff. All I want to do is try and create a dialogue and keep the conversation going, where I can hopefully get into a position where I can then learn the reasons why things are how they are, and then, you know, maybe I can't help, maybe they don't want my input, you know, fair enough, a lot of people wouldn't, but at least then I'll be in a position where I can understand that and hopefully then share that with you guys and help educate everybody else who's just really confused about the reason why headshots have been banned at this site, yet they haven't been banned because you can't get in trouble for it, but they tell players they're not allowed to headshot, which then makes players complain to marshals about it. But anyway, there we go. That's it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've just, I don't know, I hope that this is informative for you and in letting you know the continuation of this situation. A huge thank you to all of my patrons. Really, I love all of you so much, and every single day we are moving ever closer to the prize draw of £110 plus in the kitty for you guys to walk away with. So if you want to become a patron, check out the link below. There's also a link at the end of the video too, but you know, link in the description. I'll love you forever for it. And with that being said, thank you again for watching. Remember to call your hits, and I'll see you in the next one.